Welcome to First Unitarian Toronto Online, where we gather in a new way to seek, connect, and serve. We welcome you, whether you're joining us from around the corner or around the world, and whether you're a longtime member of this community or visiting us for the first time today. As we begin, we acknowledge that in the city of Toronto, the land upon which we gather is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabeg, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat. It is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit and subject to the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant. This was an agreement between the Anishinaabeg and the Haudenosaunee to peacefully share and care for the lands around the Great Lakes. As we gather again today, connecting from our many homes, we recognize that we live, work, and worship on Indigenous land, and we recommit ourselves once again to the essential and ongoing work of reconciliation. I'm Reverend Lynn Harrison. I'm joined today by pianist Adam Sakiyama, Director of Congregational Music Dallas Bergen, AV technician Matt Rideout, and Justice Krar as well, also assisting on with our AV this morning, and Reverend Ben Robbins, who has served First Unitarian as our summer minister this year. Thank you so much, Ben. We also welcome a special guest, LaTonya Richardson, today, who is joining us from Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She is the Director of General Assembly for the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. Welcome, LaTonya. We're so glad that you're with us today. As we begin our service, I invite you to light a candle or chalice if you have one handy, and to join with us in our chalice lighting words. As we light our chalice, may its flame kindle within us the warmth of compassion, the glow of love, the fire of commitment, and the light of truth.
Thank you, Lynn, and good morning, everyone. It is so good to be with you. Our call to worship is We Are Called by Reverend Natalie Fenimore, adapted. We are all called by the wind, the rushing water, the fireflies, the summer sun. Called by the sidewalk, the playground, the laughing children, the streetlights. Called by our appetites and gifts, our needs and challenges. But we can also be called by unhelpful things like the pain, the bottle, the want. And we are called by the spirit of love and hope and visions of purpose for our lives. We are all called. What do we choose? How do we answer the call? So come, let us worship together. From our many and varied paths, we come together, I forgot the wording again, to worship. So let us join in saying the words of our covenant, which will appear on the screen. Love is our doctrine. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve life to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all.
I share with you news of the life of the congregation. I'd like to extend a warm welcome back to Reverend Lynn Harrison. Lynn, it's so wonderful to have you with us this morning. And with Lynn's return, drop-in groups with Reverend Lynn have resumed. You can find information on Tuesday morning awakenings and Thursday evening reflections on the website or via our weekly newsletter, First Light. Also, our Reconciliation Working Group has shared a piece titled Reconciliation Work by Quilting from the Reconciliation Quilt Project, and I invite you to check that out. Thank you to the Reconciliation Working Group for continuing to offer us pieces to connect us to the ongoing work of reconciliation. And our Canadian Unitarian Council continues to accept feedback on the Eighth Principle Project. You can find more details on this initiative as well as news on all Canadian Unitarian Council content at cuc.ca. And on congregational news and events, I invite you to subscribe to First Light, our weekly newsletter, and you can do that via the website as well.
Our meditation is A Blessing of Angels by John O'Donohue. And I've changed the word angel to the word spirit. May the spirit of awakening stir your heart to come alive to the eternal within you, to all the invitations that quietly surround you. May the spirit of healing turn your wounds into sources of refreshment. May the spirit of the imagination enable you to stand on the true thresholds, at ease with your ambivalence and drawn in new directions through the glow of your contradictions. May the spirit of compassion open your eyes to the unseen suffering around you. May the spirit of wildness disturb the places where your life is domesticated and safe. Take you to the territories of true otherness, where all that is awkward in you can fall into its own rhythm. May the spirit of Eros introduce you to the beauty of your senses, to celebrate your inheritance as a temple of the Holy Spirit. May the spirit of justice disturb you to take the side of the poor and the wronged. May the spirit of encouragement confirm you in worth and self-respect, that you may live with the dignity that presides in your soul. May the spirit of death arrive only when your life is complete. And may the spirit of life be your sheltering and joyful guardian.
We come now to a time in our service when we offer prayerful reflection on our shared sorrows as well as our joys. In the interdependent web of life, our personal experiences may seem separate, and yet they are woven together in so many ways. Opening ourselves to the meaning and mystery of life in all its seasons, we affirm that what touches any one of us affects us all. Today we are holding in our hearts many sorrows and concerns for those both near and far away. Our love and prayers go out to the people of Haiti following yesterday's devastating earthquake. As well, today our thoughts are with the people of Afghanistan, given all of the unrest and violence there. Our thoughts today are with the many people in Canada and around the world who are fleeing fires, floods, and other catastrophes today. The weight of the world's sorrow is heavy this summer, and we pray for all those who are struggling with depression and anxiety in these times, those confronting addictions and healing from trauma, coping with illness and living with grief. Also, everyone who is continuing to live day by day with the difficult realities of the COVID-19 pandemic. And now, because a sorrow shared can be a burden lifted, you are invited to share any personal concerns you are carrying today or concerns you have for the wider world. You are invited to type them into the chat at this time, and I will do my best to lift them up. Harold Wright is mourning the loss of his dear friend, Roy Fisher, who passed away peacefully on Friday, and at the same time, Harold is grateful for their many years of friendship. We are so sorry for your loss, Harold. Yvonne Rauflaub is thinking of her friend Linda, whose best friend Lori died in July, and whose mother is now bedridden and in decline. Thank you, Yvonne. Catherine Lake shares that Karen and Catherine are grieving the loss of their friend Dominic, who died last week too early from brain cancer. So sorry for your loss. Barb Wentworth is missing Mark Jorgensen, who died 3 years ago this week. Honoring the memory of Mark today. Thank you, Barb. I'm thinking of the loss of Nancy Griffith, the singer whose music brought joy to many people. She died a couple of days ago in her late 60s. Also thinking of a family friend, James, who had a heart attack a few days ago and is now in hospital. India Taylor, please pray for my daughter who is suffering with an exacerbation of horrible pain, that it will subside and the doctors will find a diagnosis and treatment. You're holding her in our hearts, India. Margaret Vandenbroek lifts up the women and girls of Afghanistan who, after 20 years of education and welfare gains, are now facing fear and disaster under the Taliban. Thank you, Margaret. May all of these and other concerns be met with love, care, and compassion today and in the days to come. In addition to the many sorrows we carry, we also have joys to lift up today. In times of challenge, the joys of our lives, however small, can be precious sources of renewal and strength. We give thanks today for the bonds of community and friendship, and for the joy of reconnecting after times of absence. We are grateful for the rooms that shelter us, and the marvelous machines that allow us to be present to one another. As we pause to consider the blessings of our lives, may we share them with one another in the spirit of gratitude as a spiritual practice. I invite you to share any joys, milestones, or gratitudes you have today by typing them into the chat. Perhaps I can begin by expressing our gratitude for the ministry of Reverend Ben Robbins, all the many gifts he has brought to First Unitarian this summer. Ben, may your new ministry in Hillsboro, Oregon be full of blessings for you and for everyone there. Sue Hansel is grateful to be here today. Thank you, Sue. So glad that you're here. Catherine Kentridge is participating in the Unitarian congregation in Kendall, Cumbria. Thank you, Catherine. It's so good to be connected with you across the pond, as it were. Thank you. I've expressed this gratitude in the drop-in groups, but I have been so joyful for gardening in terracotta pots this summer, and the wonderful surprise that I was actually able to grow tomatoes and peppers, really for the first time in my life. And admiration to all of the gardeners out there. Much joy. Ingrid Phillip celebrated her son's birthday and also saw her grandson for the first time in 2 years. Thank you for sharing that joy with us, Ingrid. Yvonne Roflov is grateful for fall weather in London lately, and it's delightful. Margaret Newell, grateful for incredible luck at having been born in Canada in spite of its imperfections. Thank you, Margaret. Nicole Johnson is feeling heavy but happy now in her 3rd trimester. We're very excited and happy for you, Nicole, and for your family. Elise de Pasquale is grateful for an inspiring visit to the AGO yesterday morning. Thank you, Elise. And Barb Wentworth, grateful for the flowers blooming in front of 175 St. Clair Avenue West. Thank you, Barb. Now, as we hold all of these joys as well as our sorrows in our hearts, I invite you to pause now for a moment of prayer. Spirit of life, creative source of love that enlivens this world, awaken in us new possibilities for healing and hope today. Guide us toward meaning and purpose in the ways that we are meant to move and grow. Grant us clarity to make wise decisions and open hearts to love and serve others. Grant us the ability to move with creative purpose in this complicated and suffering world. May today we open ourselves and find our paths toward healing and toward peace, caring for the earth and all its creatures, and living with kindness and compassion. May it be so. Amen. Why do trees look like my hands? Why'd it take me so long to notice? Fingers stretched out over land. Why'd it take me so long to see? The pattern of patterns from rainbows to rust. Maybe it matters, for matter it must. I pray that someday I may understand why the trees look like my hands. Why do waves move like my breath? Why'd it take me so long to notice? In and out from birth till death, why'd it take me so long to see? The rivers and oceans deep under my skin, the rhythmic motion, the flow we're all in. Each moment nothing more and nothing less than the wave made by my breath. I know trees look like my hands. It just took me a little while to notice. Fingerprints, they're dunes of sand. It just took me a very little long time to see. Living on earth, why should I be surprised when I find heaven right here in your eyes? It's places like this that the light comes to land, where the trees look like my hands, where the trees look like my hands. Trees look like my hands. Trees look like your hands. Trees look like our hands.
Thank you so much, Lynn. So why do trees look like my hands? Why do waves move like my breath? What is going on here? What forces led to the creation of trees? And what forces led to the creation of hands? Are these two different stories, or are they two plot lines of the same story? Where do trees come from? And where do hands come from? Let's take a step back and look at the story of how we all got here. And let's start at the very beginning, the earliest known event, the Big Bang. Where the energy of the Big Bang came from, we don't know. What a mystery. A big bang, and then matter rushes apart, forming gigantic patterns, spreading, always spreading. And gravity acts, bringing these tendrils together to form galaxies and stars, connecting, always connecting. And planets form. And in the primordial ocean, atoms bump into each other and form molecules. So much jostling, spreading, and connecting. More complex molecules form, chains of amino acids spreading and connecting. Single-celled organisms are born, jostling, reaching, connecting. Multicellular organisms reaching, connecting. Then photosynthesis, reaching for sunlight, each organism a tremendously complex network of life. DNA is copied, proteins are made, signals are sent, all of this done mindlessly, for there are not yet any brains. Mindless organisms reaching and connecting, reaching and connecting. The first nervous systems evolve in jellyfish to allow both movement and sensing the world. Neurons growing and connecting, growing and connecting. This proves handy. Neural networks make limbs move, open the mouth, bring in food, sense predators. Systems grow by chance and survive if they help the creature to survive. And then concentrated neural networks, brains, develop. To look at a brain up close is to see an incredible network of neurons, interwoven and interspersed, created through chance mutations and reinforcement of success. So why do the neural networks in our brains look like trees and look like hands? It's because they all evolved to reach and connect, to reach and connect. We do not think using logic gates and rational processes. We think using what evolution gave us. There's a professor of neurology and anthropology named Melvin Konner, who wrote a book called The Tangled Web: Biological Constraints on the Human Spirit. Konner says that humans think in ways that help us to survive. We use motivated reasoning, not pure reasoning. And yes, surviving isn't the only thing. We are also motivated to be in close relationship with others. And this also provides plenty of room for motivated reasoning. If our crops fail, should we blame ourselves, blame nature, or should we blame the settlement one valley over? Aha, let's blame the settlement one valley over. And let's make things right by taking their crops for ourselves. That is motivated reasoning, and it can help you to survive. Sometimes you forgive your friend for something when you wouldn't forgive your enemy. That's motivated reasoning. Melvin Konner says that this behavior is wired in. Perhaps you've seen a little kid who can justify taking the last cookie even though they've had their share. That is motivated reasoning. Evolutionary psychologist William von Hippel wrote a book called The Social Leap. He argues that humans adapted to be social animals. We find value in a shared worldview, even if the worldview is not true. Staying loyal to your political tribe can be more important than sussing out the truth. And it is not just the other political tribe who does this. Your tribe does it too. We are wired to fit in. We are wired to believe what it is convenient to believe. We are not wired to think rationally. So here is a short list of our cognitive biases: agent detection, ambiguity effect, anchoring, anthropomorphism, attentional bias, attribute substitution, automation bias, availability heuristic, and I'm still only on the A's. And for the full list, you can look up cognitive biases, a list of cognitive biases on Wikipedia. Humans have so many cognitive biases. We have some because they help us to survive and bond with our neighbor. We have some because our brains are made by trial and error. It can be so frustrating to see the mess people are making of their lives, or see the mess people are making of the world due to irrational behavior. I just want to implore people, please do a better job of reasoning. I wonder if you ever feel that way reading the news, seeing how people respond to COVID and such. So let's actually turn this into a litany. I invite you to join in. Each time I say something, please say, please do a better job of reasoning. So here we go. When a politician ignores the science, please do a better job of reasoning. When someone on the internet is wrong, please do a better job of reasoning. When global warming doesn't get addressed, it needs to be addressed, please do a better job of reasoning. When someone chooses hate instead of extending a hand, please do a better job of reasoning. There's more to it than reasoning, I know. When someone is only short-term thinking, please do a better job of reasoning. When a friend misinterprets your words, or workmate, please do a better job of reasoning. And take a moment to insert your own thing here. What makes you want to say, please do a better job of reasoning? Okay, let's say it. Please do a better job of reasoning. And one last one aimed at yourself, because we are all wired irrationally. Please do a better job of reasoning. I think, therefore, I am probably making mistakes. But we try so hard to think better. Coming out of the Dark Ages, full of myth and provincialism, the Enlightenment was a time of stepping back to try to see the bigger picture. It was a time of taking things apart to see what made them tick, to see how simple systems interacted so that we could then understand more complex systems. The scientific outlook gave us great gains such as abundant food, an understanding of hygiene, and now mRNA vaccines. And thanks to science, we get to see a photo of Earth from outer space. But we took reason too far. Many examples of the modern era being unreasonable in its use of reason. So I'll pick one. Designers of cities said, let's take out everything that's complex, create a grid of streets, rectangular buildings, make everything large because large is more efficient. We created cities that were easy to understand, but that made no sense. Jane Jacobs came along and said, we need cities that don't make sense. We need cities that develop organically, the way that trees and hands and brains develop. Reasoning better means opening up to the complexities of the world, seeing things as they are, not seeing things the way you want them to be, and not seeing things the way your tribe says they are. Bell Hooks said that the heart of justice is truth-telling, seeing ourselves and the world the way it is, rather than the way we want it to be. She says, more than ever before, we as a society need to renew a commitment to truth-telling. Truth-telling is one of our commitments, but we have other commitments. We don't specialize only in reasoning better. But there is a group that does. The group formed around a website called Less Wrong. They say, we can't know if we are right, but we can try to be less wrong. Their goal is to do a better job of reasoning, to overcome their cognitive biases so that they can see the world as it is, not as they want it to be. And the Less Wrong community spawned a broader informal network of people that is sometimes called the rationalist community. They don't love the name because they recognize that they're not rationalist. Someone named Julia Galef started the Center for Applied Rationality to help people to think better. She has a background in statistics, which is a sound background for disciplined reasoning. But beware, it is possible to lie with statistics, even to yourself. Before starting the Center for Applied Rationality, Galef was a member of the New York City Skeptics, and perhaps there are skeptics here today. Galef wrote a book this year called The Scout Mindset: Why Some People See Things Clearly and Others Don't. She argues that some people have a scout mindset, trying to get an accurate lay of the land, while other people have a soldier mindset, motivated to see not what is true, but what will help them to win. Scouts aspire to accurate reasoning. Soldiers are content with motivated reasoning. Galef started the Center for Applied Rationality with the hope that she could help people to become scouts, that she could help people to overcome their biases so that they could see and think more clearly. And the good news is that studying reasoning can help you to better see your cognitive biases. But the bad news is that when it comes to reducing your cognitive biases, Galef did not see the results she was hoping for. It turns out that improving your reasoning skills can make you better at justifying your beliefs, not better at overcoming your cognitive bias. Even professional scientists don't always know what they don't know. The physicist Richard Feynman would play a practical joke by convincing his colleagues of one thing and then immediately convincing them of the opposite thing. So very sneaky and humbling. We value reason, we affirm reason, we promote reason, and we aren't necessarily good at reasoning. So what are we to do? One thing that we do is create groups that can think better than individuals can think. The scientific approach has people looking at the same problem from different angles, checking each other's work, going beyond the limits of one mind. And consider us. Perhaps our intelligence as a congregation is greater than the sum of our individual intelligences. You can fool yourself some of the time, but it is hard to fool a community of truth seekers. So have a number of people in your life to run things by. Some who think similarly to you to help you get into the nuances, and some who think differently from you to help you to see your blind spots. Reason is bigger than us. Another way to deal with being bad at reasoning is to use shortcuts. Instead of fully reasoning out whether a dog is safe, given its breed and temperament, you can simply check if its tail is wagging. Instead of reasoning your way through the nutritional value of everything you eat, just check if you're eating a variety of healthy foods. These shortcuts don't provide proof, but they help us to avoid situations that are too complex for our reasoning ability. Unfortunately, one way that some people avoid bad reasoning is to just do things the way that they have always been done. That's their shortcut. The reasoning here is that if you do things differently, you'll probably do things worse. There's something called the rationalist to traditionalist pipeline. It happens when a rationalist says, wow, I am bad at reasoning and I can't get better at reasoning. So they lose their faith in their ability to reason and just dial back their use of reason. Some call themselves post-rationalist or post-rat, very trendy name. And rationalists who dial back their use of reason a lot, who mostly just do things the old way, now call themselves traditionalist or trad, very trendy name for having new trends. So I agree that we can depend too exclusively on reason. And yes, sometimes it is better to just follow the tradition of having birthday cake on your birthday without overthinking it. But I say do not respond to the limits of reason by abandoning reason. Rather, buttress it with other ways of knowing. We are bigger than reason. One way of knowing is relationship. I cannot reason my way into knowing what is in your heart. I need to be in relationship with you. I can't reason my way into understanding First Nations needs. I need to be in relationship with First Nations. This is why so many congregations have Indigenous awareness groups. We understand that relationship is an important piece of the puzzle. Another way to complement your reason is to love. Wake up with the decision that today you are going to love the world. We are wired to be biased towards those we love, so love everybody. Love all beings. You might be biased in your reasoning, but at least you can tilt the bias towards helping all. Especially love those who need it the most. The poet Elizabeth Tarbox says, "Love is so elusive and so precious and doesn't follow any rules." Reasoning can make us overvalue the explicit, the legible, the understood. Love can move you through the world the way trees, hands, and neurons move, reaching and connecting. We understand that there are limits to reason, but do not give up on reason. Broaden yourself to include reason, relationship, love, and more. It is the reasonable thing to do. Our benediction is As We Move by Orlando Brugnola. As we move through life, finding ourselves always newly wise and newly foolish, we ask that our mistakes be small and not hurtful. We ask that as we gain experience, we do not forget our innocence, for experience and innocence are both part of the whole.
Thank you so much, Ben. And thank you all for your presence here with us today. We warmly invite you to stay for discussion in our breakout groups after the service. If you simply stay on the call, you'll receive an invitation and then be moved into a small group for conversation. Today, the starting point for conversation is the question, what is a moment of discovery you have had about how you see the world? What is a moment of discovery that you've had about how you see the world? If you've lit a chalice today, let us take a moment to extinguish it. Its light is extinguished, and yet the warmth continues to light our day. May your day and all days ahead be filled with beauty, joy, wonder, curiosity, compassion, and love. Go in peace.